Okay, Mr. McDonald, I think we can move on to the next.
Great. So we're going to move into recommendation 4. This deals with causation studies. It's fairly straightforward. Currently, as set out in the memorandum, causation studies are required for a number of lakes in the township, and the district is the body responsible for carrying out these causation studies. These studies are intended to investigate cause and effect relationships, and is triggered when one or more water quality indicators is confirmed to be present. What we did in the official plan, and this was discussed through the policy direction phase, was to include a policy that indicated that new lots would not be permitted to be created on any of these lakes until the causation study was completed. And certainly if the causation study determined that the cause of the issue had to do with development directly, then of course that prohibition on lot creation would most likely remain as a consequence of that. If it went the other way and it was determined it was something else, then of course the potential would exist for lot creation to be permitted in the future. Causation studies are challenging to prepare, and as indicated, they may not be conclusive, and that will be a challenge. This is a new policy approach at the district level. It'll take some time to see how this will all work out, but as part of the overall precautionary principle that we're applying in this plan, we thought, and I continue to believe, that restricting lot creation on these lakes until the studies are at least done continues to be appropriate, and that is my recommendation to this committee.
Okay, thank you. Any comments, committee? Councillor Hayes.
Just one comment, and that is causation studies triggered by water quality, I think is a good thing, and I would support that. However, I believe we were told that the district did not know how long it was going to take to do the causation studies for those lakes. So I don't mind waiting a reasonable amount of time, but when a causation study may not be in the books for 4 or 5 years, I mean, do we have any idea what the time frame would be for that? I just didn't want to. I like the idea, but I'm torn on this particular one.
Mr. McDonald.
Yeah, in response, I know the district, through their budgeting process, looks at how many causation studies they can complete in a year. There are a number of things they consider. Budget is obviously one of them. Time and resources and so on are issues for them as well. I'm aware that they, I guess in the last little while, did a report and recommended that a number of causation studies be completed, but I've lost track of the timing of all of them. But your point is well taken. It's really up to the district to make these decisions, and for local municipalities to lobby the district to get as many of these things done as possible in any given year. But it seems that it will take some time for some of the lakes to be dealt with. And, you know, I don't know if we should be changing our approach based on that only. Perhaps that could be considered later, but I'm not sure that's the approach to take now. Mr. Pink, any additional comments in terms of timing of these causation studies that I may have missed?
Mr. Pink.
Thank you, through the chair. Similarly to yourself, I've lost a little bit of track. I know the district ran into some issues. They tried to complete a number of studies over the last year or two, and they run into timing, etc. issues, but I believe a few are underway, and they continue to devote resources to continue to complete those outstanding, but it will take some time, as Mr. McDonald stated.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. If my memory serves me correct, causation studies does not assess the quality of water. It only assesses the cause of algae blooms, blue-green algae. There are numerous other healthy water lake measurements that are not being looked into. So, to think that we're looking at that this is going to handle our water, take a look at our water quality, it's not. So enough on that. What I'd like to add to the recommendation is not only completion of what was mentioned earlier by one of the delegates, not only the completion of the causation study, but implementation of the recommendations of the causation study. So would committee consider that?
Okay, I noted that too. When we get to our discussion, we'll bring that back, Councillor Roberts. Councillor Kelly?
Thank you, and through you, just a real quick question. I understand specifically to the two on Lake Muskoka, Boyd Bay and Weismiller Bay. I understand how you can isolate two bays for purposes of causation studies for doing the work to do the study, but do we actually have the ability to prohibit activities around or on a specific bay? And how does it relate, for instance, to properties that might be partially on a bay and not on a bay? It just sounds to me like a scramble that I'm curious to know how we would deal with it.
I'm going to let Director Pink hop in here. Director Pink?
Thank you. Mr. McDonald may wish to add, but we would look to the District of Muskoka. They model the Lake System Health Program and the water quality model, and they do actually define those boundaries of those bays and lakes, and we would look to them, and there, at the end of the day, does have to be a finite line, but they do provide those boundaries for us. Just to Councillor Roberts' last comment, this may help clarify. Mr. Roberts, Councillor Roberts is exactly correct. It's not a water quality study per se. It's a determination of the root cause of why the lake may be experiencing one of those indicators. But I'm not sure if we need to sort of add any restrictions or reference implementation. The way the policies are set up is if that causation study determines that development is the cause of those water quality issues, the hold would remain, the prohibition on lot coverage would remain. So there's no real reason to implement anything different for an implementation. Essentially, the pause that we would temporarily have would become permanent because we would know the root cause is development. If it's inconclusive, if it's natural, if it's due to agriculture, sediments, then clearly development is not causing it and the hold would be lifted. So just want everyone to be clear on how the policy is structured and what the intent is.
And to supplement what Mr. Pink just said, if it's determined that development is the cause, other things may need to change as well, such as increasing the setback from the lake, reducing dwelling unit size, changing boathouse permissions. There could be a whole range of things that come out of that, in addition to a longer-term full-time prohibition on lot creation. So many outcomes are possible, but Mr. Pink is correct that if development is shown to be the cause, then that prohibition would stay.
Thank you. That was very helpful. Councillor Nishikawa.
Thank you. I'm a little bit challenged as to who is going to be responsible and who's going to pick up the costs. Are we just applying to the district to say we need this area, have a causation study, and I'm really trying to understand what a property owner is going to be asked to pay for, along with the other. And again, it's interesting because Councillor Zavix went through the exercise for Habitat to find out all of the different costs and things like that that are associated with development. And I believe that should be shown up to the public all the time, because all of these costs are just adding up. And I'm just very cautious about having an understanding of who's going to pick it up and who's the timing. And again, I look at Weismiller Bay, for instance, and I think about, we have a recreational use dock in that area, as in our township has a facility that brings all sorts of people and all sorts of different activity to the area that we've known has had some struggles. So I'm not even sure how that comes into play. Anyhow, I don't know who can answer me, but I just am curious of who's going to pick up the tab.
Mr. McDonald.
Yeah, all with a great question. So it's my understanding that the district fully funds the preparation of causation studies, and it comes out of their budget, which obviously taxpayers fund. So there is no levies or charges being levied onto individual property owners around the lake. And because the district is the one who makes the decisions on which one should be prepared or this year and which one should be done next year, it's really up to them to make those decisions. We did include a policy in the draft official plan that basically says if the district is not prepared or doesn't have the resources to do a causation study, the township can initiate such a causation study as well and could partner with a lake association to do that. So that opportunity is there. If the district is unwilling or unable to prepare a causation study on their own. So that's always available to the township. And if the township did that, then again, that would be funded through the budget. I don't anticipate there being any levies placed on individual property owners. It would be a township expense, just like it would be to do any other kind of study like the transportation master plan that you're undertaking right now.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm not seeing any more input, and I believe, Councillor Roberts, you had your question answered. All right, so can I get a thumbs up on this going out to the public as recommended? Agreement? Mr. McDonald, there you go. And we can now move on to